What's up guys, James here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the 5 fish that I most regret ever owning. Now this video is just a list of the 5 fish that I've owned throughout my time in the fish keeping hobby, and the experiences that I've had have come to make them on this list really. So yeah, let's get to it. So at number 5, I'm sure this has happened to everyone. What happened is I went to my local fish shop to buy a honey gourami. The shop didn't have any in stock at the time, so out of impulse I went and purchased a golden gourami. Now a golden gourami is slightly different to the honey gouramis because the honey gouramis are more classed as a dwarf gourami, so they're smaller, yet the golden gouramis are quite big. Now mine, in terms of size, would probably be about this big at the moment, yeah, I impulsively bought him, took him home, thought he'd be okay with the rest of my community fish, and yeah, it turned out that he's been quite aggressive to some of my fish. For one in particular is my platy that I have in there, yeah, I fell into the beginner mistakes. I impulsively bought a fish, and yeah, I didn't do my research back in the day, and you know, on the parameters of the fish, yeah, just placed him in an aquarium with the rest of the community fish. So it's a fish that I've had now for a little while. He's not been too bad, to be fair. He's kind of eased off now. He's in a heavily planted tank, so you know, aggression is lower because line of sight is you know, not always there, so you know, it has calmed it down. But yeah, unfortunately I fell into the mistakes, and currently all my other aquariums are full with other fish and different types, so I've again been stuck with a fish that, yeah, I kind of regret owning. That's these hard ones where, like, do you get rid of him, or you know, because I don't know, I think of the welfare of the fish as well. So it's like, is it best to be in an aquarium where he's slightly aggressive with me, but I can look after him properly, as in like feed him and give him, you know, a good, hopefully a nice aquarium to live in, or do you let him go to somebody else that sometimes you don't know who it is? So it's a bit of a hard one, that one. Number 4 on this list would be mollies. Now again, nothing wrong with mollies. They're actually a really nice fish, come in a ton of different colors, but the thing that I most regret for it is mollies. First of all, they can be a little bit territorial, I guess. Like I've got Platy in there as well, and he tends to pick on that. You can be a bit nippy to some tetras and things like that, so there is that, but for the most part they're not too bad. They are a community fish, but they are a live bearer and they breed like crazy. And yeah, also it's one of those ones where, like, you fall into that trap again when you first start into the hobby by people telling you that mollies, platies, any kind of live bearers are beginner fish to start with. So you kind of, yeah, it's great right at the beginning and once you're getting used to your aquariums, but then what happens next? Like you tend to want to move on to more advanced fish, or more, yeah, different types, or different, you want to replicate different areas of, or different rivers, different lakes of different types around the world. So you know, you can sort of fall again into that thing where you get stuck with beginner fish in a community tank, because yeah, that's just how it is at the beginning. But yeah, it's one of those ones where just unfortunately I have them, you know, they're in my community tank and absolutely fine, happy enough. But yeah, it's just another one that I kind of regret, to be honest. Going on the route of live bearers would be a number 3 slot, which is platies. Now I've had quite a few platies in my time. It was one of the first fish I got as a beginner. Again, it's a beginner fish. You fall into that beginner sort of trait of owning the same type of fish. So there was that was the problem. And the second thing is being live bearers, and being that you know, the water conditions were quite ripe for platies to thrive in. They did indeed do so, and I ended up with so many fry. It was unbelievable, and it overtook my whole aquarium, and I was left with the dilemma of trying to find new homes for the fish I had. Now, yeah, it's great. You could say, oh yeah, you know, you earn a bit of money from it and stuff, but they're so common and they're so easily bred that you know, you don't get a lot of money for them, and you've got the hassle of you know, keeping them in an aquarium, and if you're not careful they will just breed and breed and breed, and they will take over your entire tank. So if you have a community tank, you might end up just full of like certain types of live bearers. So yeah, that's another reason why this makes my list of fish that I've owned that I regret. So number 2, common theme now starting to appear here, but it would be guppies. Guppies, again, the same as the previous 2. It's a live bearer, beginner fish, and they breed like crazy as well. So you have the dilemma of the breeding thing. But for me personally, an experience that I've had, I just find them very weak, like in terms of their immune systems. I think it's because they're so like heavily inbred in the aquarium world, that they just become weak from their immune systems and stuff, so that they tend to get a lot of illnesses from experience that I've seen and you know, experienced myself. They can have a lot of deformities because of the inbreeding. Yeah, and I don't know, they come in lovely, you know, really nice colors and stuff. Don't get me wrong, it's a nice fish to have, but for me personally, again, it was just another fish that I got stuck with that I kind of regret owning. I think the number 1 spot here for me is betas or betas or whatever you want to call them, Siamese fighting fish. Those fish is the number 1 slot, because that's the fish I think I most regret ever owning. Now, I have only had one betta fish, and it's a veil tail betta, and I've had no end of problems with this fish in terms of its health and aggression and all the rest of it. So you fall into that trap. A lot of people target these fish. You know, it's not helped that the stores obviously target them as being able to be lived in small aquariums, and you know, so not only is that just an issue on its own, for me, when I got mine, I put him into an aquarium on its own. Then I tried him with a few different fish. Turns out that, because when I bought him, he was in a community tank, so I got him from a big chain store, so you know, that was that obviously had this fish in there. So I thought I'd try him with some community fish. Turned out absolutely fine. He got a little bit territorial at the first bit, but you know, throughout a long time he was quite good. But the problem that I had was obviously space and finding a place for this fish, and then I eventually did, and then he got moved around because his tank unfortunately broke, so I had to move him into a different aquarium. So it became a bit of a problem there, and because I had a lot of the movements, it caused him stress, which meant that I was dealing with a lot of fin rot issues. I've dealt with ick, swim bladder, like just the list goes on with the illnesses as well as the aggression. So for me, I think it's because, again, bettas are, they're very inbred, especially, well, I say all of them, it's the betta splendus type of breed that there is, but they're the ones that are heavily domesticated and inbred, and I just find that, you know, their immune systems are obviously quite temperamental. They have to be in really, I find them sensitive, I think that's what I'm trying to say. And from my personal experience, I've dealt with a lot of different issues. He's now in his own aquarium. He's absolutely settled and he's fine in there, and I'm hoping that you know, I can work on trying to get him feeling comfortable and get some of those health conditions back to where they were. But I think that just all the aggro and all the stress that it's caused him and myself, I just feel like if you're not enjoying your fish, then you know that's when I think that you could argue that it's regrettable to own it. So there you have it. That's my list of fish that I've ever owned that I regret. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What fish do you regret in this hobby? You know. And one thing that I have tried with this is, I mentioned this recently on a social media post, and I did get a really good reaction to this, but still a lot of people wouldn't openly admit. what kind of fish that they regret. So hopefully this is a good starting topic for this. Please let me know in the comments what kind of fish you regret, because I think that it's worth talking about, because not enough of this stuff is talked about in the hobby. So yeah, let us know, and if you could, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, you stay safe.